Hey, ¿qué pasa, cracks? Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Vampire. Bueno, pues vamos a seguir por donde lo dejamos el otro día. Que veníamos de cargarnos al hombre rata ese gigante. Y ahora tenemos que ir a Whitechapel. Vale, pues vamos a Whitechapel, que está a 190 metros. Vale, ahora sí que tenemos que tirar por esta parte, por la que tiramos el otro día, que no era. Que casi nos revientan. Ahora sí que hay que tirar por aquí. Ahora sí, Vale. Pero cuidado que no nos dispare. Buah, chaval. Vale. Si te pillo. Cuidado, hermano, cuidado. Vale, márcalo. Me parte, tú. ¡Joder! Vale, uno fuera. Dispárame. Vale, esquiva. No, espera, pégale. Lo cogemos. La verga, tú, lo que me ha quitado, Buah, chaval, lo que quita, No, me mata. Vale. Lo bueno es que cuando te alejas es como que pasa de ti, ¿sabes? No pases de mí, crack. ¡Uno más! ¡No! Uf. Vale. Hostia, vaya combos hace, ¿Qué es esto? Proteger la libertad de los ciudadanos. Alístate en la marina hoy mismo. Va a ser que no. Tengo suficiente lucha contra los tíos estos. Oh, mira, nuevo escondite. Vale. Tenemos un nuevo escondite. No. Esto lo puedo abrir seguro. Esto también. ¿Qué más? Pues tenemos 500... Bueno, nos vamos a... Sí, dejamos el otro día mejor para ahorrar. Mejor ahorramos y luego mejoramos habilidades tochas. Porque si nos vamos gastando la poca experiencia que vamos consiguiendo. Vale, nos adentramos en territorio nuevo, ¡Hostia! Vale, pillamos sangre. No me lo creo, tú. Pero es que cada enemigo cuesta, tío. Es que da igual que sea un puto Mindundi, ¿sabes? Mira. Mira. Es que da igual que sea un puto Mindundi. Es que cuesta, Es que no veas tú cómo pegan. Cualquier enemigo, tú. Como la rata. ¿Dónde está la otra rata? Aquí, ¿no? Como esta rata. Y esto también. Vamos a la rata. Tío, ¿cómo cuesta cada enemigo, tío? Gripe, frecuentemente agravada por la neumonía. Quédese en casa para evitar contagio de la gripe española. Vale, ahí veo otro enemigo. Bueno, son dos. Tengo que ir para allá. Pero aquí abajo tiene que haber algo, seguro. Son dos. Vale, pero eso... ¡Fua! Está allí el otro. Está allí el otro chetado, tío. Está allí el otro chetado, hermano. Vale, vale, huye. Joder, lo hemos hecho bastante bien con esto. Vale, 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 vale. Con esto lo hemos hecho bastante bien. Vale, ese es el que tira las cosas de fuego, así que tener cuidado. ¿Puedo marcarlo? Sí, sí, sí. Me meto con eso. Y ahora voy a por él. Vale. Esa es la clave, esa es la clave. Meterla ahí, no somanta de galletas y no dejarlo cenar. Vale, ¿qué tenemos por aquí? Vale, esto es otro distrito. Esto es otro distrito, pero yo creo que por aquí no me voy a meter, ¿eh? Yo creo que por aquí no me voy a meter, porque si la historia no me va a andar por aquí, esos enemigos tienen que ser chetadísimos. Y lo tengo que tener chungo. Voy a mirar qué hay. No me lo creo. ¿Qué coño haces aquí, tío? No puede ser, tío. No puede ser, tú. No puede ser. ¿Qué cojones hace eso aquí, tío? No me lo puedo creer. No me lo puedo creer. Que vengo de luchar contra ti como un boss y ahora te tengo aquí otra vez. ¿En serio? O sea, ahora esto ya me va a salir. O sea, esto me va a salir ya como enemigos normales en el juego. No, está... Nada, 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 nada. Está loco. Está loco este juego. Está loco. Y contra aquel bicho no me voy a enfrentar ni de coña. ¿Sabes qué puedo hacer? Vale, ya sé lo que voy a hacer. Ven, 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 ven. Ven, amigo, ven. Ven, amigo, ven. Ven, amigo, ven. Sí, sí, sígueme, sígueme. Sígueme, bro. Sígueme. Sígueme, sígueme. Sígueme, sígueme. Venga, loco. Ay, y tú vienes a por mí. Venga, si quieres tú uno para uno aquí. No, no, se va por él, se va por él. Ah, no sé. Viene, viene, viene. Ven, 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 ven. Ahí, pegaros, pegaros. Ahí está, ahí está. Y aquel tonto viene a por mí, ¿sabes? Este sigue viniendo a por mí, el capullo. Que se cargan al hombre rata, tío. Que se han cargado al hombre rata. Este está bugueado. Está bugueado. Vale, vamos a ver qué es lo que le afecta. La sangre. Vale, la sangre es lo que más le pega a este. Pues así todo. El muro se llama. Roger, el muro. Bro, quita mucha vida, tío. Bro. Mira que aprovecho el bug, ¿eh? Vale, aprovecho el bug. Hermano, está bugueado. Está bugueado, pero está roto, tío, a la vez. Está bugueado, pero está roto a la vez. Vale, fuera. Hemos hecho un poco la guarra, pero ha servido. Espérate, que ahora nos queda el tonto este, tío. Vale, estaba un toque, estaba un toque. Buah, chaval. Hemos sobrevivido, es lo que importa. Es lo que cuenta, hemos sobrevivido. Pues entonces por aquí. Por aquí.
Whitechapel. This neighborhood is linked
Hay un
somehow to the
nuevo
kind
escondite en este
alias with
distrito.
blackmail.
Vale, habrá que buscar dónde está.
Let's find this Petrescu fellow.
Entrenamiento. Sí, hay que chetarse, hay que chetarse. Un cadáver aquí, con mascarilla. Y sí. Vale, y otro. A la verga. Encuentra a Darío Petrescu y habla con él. Darío Petrescu. Estás para allá, ¿no, Darío Petrescu? Pero yo puedo ir por aquí, ¿no? ¿A ti te han pegado el tiro?
Are you all right?
The bastard hit the wall next to me. I don't even know if he meant to miss.
If you've been hurt,
No lo ha dado, no lo ha dado.
help you. I'm a doctor.
Name's Albert. Remember it. Now bugger off.
Vamos a saber cositas de
What
este.
happened? Did you
¿Qué
really
pasa, crack?
steal that man's medication?
Hey, I didn't do anything. It ain't me.
All right. Perhaps the poor drunk just confused you with someone else.
Sod off, mister. You ain't got no clue what's
Buh.
going on.
It's
Este
true.
no quiere
I'm not
nuestra ayuda,
familiar with this part of town. Perhaps you could help me.
I said sod off. Go find yourself another guide.
No querrá ser
I
mi
found the recruiter
próxima
you were
cena, ¿no?
expecting. He's dead, but he carried a note. The Wet Boot Boys have accepted your application.
I knew it. I told you I was tough enough. I'll be free soon.
Ese quiere un mordisco, eh.
This note was found on a dead man, Albert. If that doesn't change your mind, then you must be ready to face the risks.
You're all fancy words, none of which concern me. Go worry about someone else. I'm fine and I have a future here.
Estoy buscando a la enfermera Dorothy Crane.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? If you know anything about her, I'd appreciate it.
Never heard of her. If she's pretty, I'll keep an eye out.
Vale, no tenemos nada más que contar.
Goodbye, young man.
I won't end up another drunk arsehole littering the streets. Not me.
Este no tiene pinta de querer ser nuestro amigo, ¿no? ¿O sí? ¿Hola? Ah, sí, sí. Digo, lo mismo hay que pegarle
Shooting a
hostias, ¿eh?
boy in the middle of the street. Not the best thing to do, wouldn't you say?
What? You saw what happened?
Claro que lo
I'm
hemos visto.
Dr. Reed, and I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you promise me.
No. Look, I'm not a violent man.
Benjamin Palmer. Así te
Do
sabe
you
algo
know
de
Nurse
Dorothy.
Dorothy Crane?
It's funny, I've been searching for her too. I need some pills.
Él también la busca.
And why is that?
Word is she ain't real. She's a cover for some doctor who runs an illegal dispensary for migrants.
Háblame de este
What
lugar.
can you tell me about this place?
Nothing to say, really. This is where I used to live.
¿Quiere decir que antes tenía una mejor vida?
You mean you used to have a better life?
Yeah, I had a wife, a home, and a job. I even used to have a name. And now I'm just Ben.
Venga el vagabundo.
You don't have anywhere to go.
Not since the death of my wife.
Perhaps you could focus for a moment and tell me your troubles.
I'm sick, broke, and my son just stole my pills. Everything's coming up roses.
O sea, ¿este es el padre del otro? ¿Benjamin Palmer?
A gun, alcohol, and a bad temper.
¿Es el padre del chaval este? Este era Palmer también, ¿no?
I'm not your
Albert Palmer, sí, este es el hijo.
Young man.
O sea, casi le pega un tiro a su hijo.
arsehole littering the streets. Not me.
Good evening, miss.
Good evening, sir. Are you interested in a miraculous cure for this unknown and deadly epidemic?
Actually, I am.
Then you have come to the right place. The famous Swanborough cordial is all you need to help keep you in perfect health.
Oh, really? Why didn't I hear about it during my studies? I'm Jonathan Reed,
No,
by the
no.
way. Dr. Jonathan.
Ah, my brother has spoken of your research, sir. I'm Loretta Swanborough, and it's always a pleasure to meet a fellow healer.
A ver, hagamos un
I'd
trato.
like
¿Este
to
que nos
see
da?
what kind of
Elixir, frasco, solución, codeína, opio. A lo mejor alguno de estos nos venden la receta para la enfermedad que necesitamos, la de la anemia.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital?
I don't like to talk about competition.
Competition, you say?
Competir.
Never met her, but it seems she provides some sort of medical care to the poor. The whole thing has to be some sort of scam, if you ask me.
Tell me, who intrigues you most in Whitechapel?
The region itself is something to see, but I would say Camellia the mute florist who gives away her
La
flowers.
florista muda.
Is there anyone I should avoid?
Cadogan Bates, without a doubt. The bloody bastard remorselessly exploits poor migrants.
A esto no lo
as soon as
comemos.
they get here.
A ese pavo no lo comemos. Explota, dice que explota a los pobres. A ese
What
no
do
lo
you
comemos.
think of the locals?
Most of them are afraid or desperate. They all come to me eventually for my remedy.
Quizás, a lo mejor, claro, nos están presentando como otra comunidad, así decirlo. Y quizás no haga falta comernos a los nuestros, por así decirlo, los de nuestro hospital. Quizás podemos cargarnos otras cosas por ahí. A nosotros lo que nos importa es nuestro hospital, ¿sabes? Otros pavos por ahí, ya ves tú. Lo iremos viendo conforme se vayan recuperando y tal. Hasta aquí el borracho este. ¿Este es el escondite? Pues una buena misión. Estado del distrito grave, o sea, está un poco la mierda. Wow, vaya sitio, No, me da a mí que el escondite esto lo es, Es un sitio para lootear, llevarnos cositas. Vale, pues sí, es el escondite. Sí, es el escondite, sí. Vale, vamos a revisar todo. Por ahí se sale, ¿no? O por aquí. Vale. A ver qué tenemos por aquí. No tenemos nada más. Por ahora nada más. Vamos a descansar y a ver qué mejoramos. Tenemos 1000 puntos. Es que quizás con 1000 mismo no nos da para mucho, Mira, esta por ejemplo nos pide 1300. Hostia, es que 2000. Es que es una burrada, tío. Es una burrada. O sea, tenemos que matar a gente, sí o sí. Cuando se pueda tenemos que matar a gente, porque si no es imposible mejorar las cosas, Voy a mejorar un poco esto básico. Esta es... Aumenta la absorción de sangre, usar mordedura de combate. A ver, eso es bueno también. Energía. Mm. 600, aumenta la energía. Esta lo tenemos mejorado. Este también. Esta quizás, me hago. Listo. No, confirmar. Algo es algo. Hemos mejorado un poco lo básico. Pero es que yo creo que va a haber que matar gente sí o sí. Vale, quitamos la marca. Ya tenemos eso ahí. Y nada, vamos a ir a la misión. A Darius Petrescu. Ya seguí conociendo la peña de este distrito.
The Swanborough cordial can be the answer to all your problems, as long as you have the money.
Vale, contigo no he hablado, ¿no? Yo no te conozco,
Good
bro.
evening, sir.
If you're here for a reward, you'll be
Oh, sí.
sorely disappointed.
I'm not here for a bounty.
Trabajo en Pembroke.
In Whitechapel, what an opportunity. My name's Bates, Cadogan Bates.
Do you require assistance,
It's not me, but your skills could help a lot of people round here.
Ok, a ver. Este tiene resfriado.
Since I took it,
Well,
Vamos a ofrecer el remedio.
infecting you is probably
Ya que lo tenemos aquí. ¿Por qué está tan
It's
contento?
unusual to see someone so happy around here, especially.
why should I be sad now? There've always been wars, disease, tragedy. There always will be.
That's an unusual way of seeing things in these trying times.
I don't see why I should shed a tear for another man's woes. I'm healthy, and I intend to stay so.
¿A qué
What
se
is your
dedica?
business exactly?
Vamos a ir sacando
Well,
información
fair
de
lodgings for a
la
modest
peña de por aquí.
price to the poor and weary of Whitechapel.
I see. And what about those who cannot pay?
Well, deals can be done, if you know what I mean. Money's not the only currency. After all, I'm not immune to a...
Vale, ya tenemos cositas de él.
In
¿Se
other
aprovecha la
words,
gente?
You take advantage of these poor lost souls.
Begging your pardon, I thought you was a man who could appreciate the complexity of the modern world.
Este es el que decían que explotaba a la gente, ¿no?
Tell me,
Este es el que nos tenemos
what's
que
your
cargar.
honest opinion of the
Cuando esté
increasing
tierno.
violence in London?
People are just beginning to discover what we've always known. This city's rotten to the core. They just took their bloody time to wake up and notice it.
What do you mean?
People are acting like the violence is news. But it's always been savage down here. It just bubbles to the surface every now and again.
What help could I possibly be to your business?
That's simple. I already get good money from all those fleeing the war. Can you imagine what they'd be willing to pay if I could offer medical assistance too?
Mr. Bates, do not make me regret saving your life in this quarantine zone.
I understand, Dr. Reed, you're from a good family. Don't want to get your hands dirty. That's fine. I'll be happy to act as your middleman.
No me interesa el dinero. Es un hombre despreciable.
I'm no saint, but to take advantage as you do, you
Ah,
are
por
a
este tenemos que ir.
despicable man who could only prosper in these dark times.
So it's a no then. That's too bad. The Reed tonic could have really helped people, you know, save lives. Isn't that what you do? I mean, people buy that Swanborough shit.
A por este vamos a ir, chavales.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane. She's a nurse.
Dorothy Crane, bless her soul. I really should thank her someday.
Tell me truthfully, why are you so thankful?
By keeping my tenants alive, she's making me a rich man.
Así puedo hacerme de oro. Qué hijo de
Every
puta,
month they
Se
live,
está aprovechando la
small
peña.
coin in my pocket.
Has she treated you?
No. When I need a checkup, I'd go to a bloody doctor, not some back alley clinic full of sick foreigners.
Vale, por aquí queda eso.
You seem to have recovered well since your attack.
Not much. It was a fucking nightmare. Savages, absolute bloody savages. Their appearance. Jesus. It made me want to puke.
You'd better not come back here. I won't be around next time to save you. Goodbye, Mr. Bates.
Le hacemos la grúa a este, ¿eh? Parece que se está aprovechando de toda la peña. Y mientras por aquí. Ese cuando esté bien de experiencia.
What do you want? Leave me alone.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I'm looking for Nurse Dorothy Crane.
There is no Dorothy Crane here. Now goodbye.
I'm afraid this medical leaflet says the opposite, sir.
Really? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to close this door right now. Go bother someone else, Mr. Doctor.
To enter that house, I must discover who this man really is. Maybe I could start by observing what he's up to. I must insist, sir. Please let me see Nurse Crane.
I have no time for...
No, no quiere abrir. Investiga las acciones de Darius Petrescu.
This out.
Nice, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid.
Al me toca hablar con la gente para que me cuente
Doctor. Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis.
sobre el pavo ese. A ver, ¿tú qué me vendes? Kirla, muelle... No me sirve.
Fancy buying.
You never... Have you heard of a nurse called Dorothy Crane?
Nurse Crane. So the bitch really is a
Ojalá.
nurse then. Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
Es una enfermera excelente.
Yes, she's a nurse, and quite a good one. What did she do
Y
to
un
get
mordiscomitos.
such notoriety?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craniu. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
O sea, no le gusta a Dorothy, ¿eh? A la peña.
How is business around here?
Business? I have no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like you blame someone in particular for your situation.
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once and for all.
Vaya chanchullo que tiene.
As a merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
What you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember, this part of town has been a bottomless pit, and no sign of the bottom yet.
Violence is increasing in the borough.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me.
Me saltaron.
Came out of one of the condemned
En este barrio hay que matar a todos, ¿eh? Están todos
Where did this happen?
metidos en mierda cada uno, tú.
Why did you go there?
in the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged, though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you. Not even able to speak anymore, just screaming.
Nada, vale.
Goodbye for now. Excuse me, sir.
Another journalist? I didn't answer the first one, so piss off.
O sea, aquí la peña son súper asquerosas, ¿eh?
It's quite
Really?
Aquí me
But
los voy
still,
a cargar
here
todos,
I
tío.
am.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, but Colossus Joe to most.
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of mine.
Dorothy Crane. Yeah, I know her.
Oh, mira, esta ve bien a Dorothy.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
How did you become the local bully everyone is afraid of, Joe?
Este es el matón,
No
¿no?
pride in roughing up poor bastards. But this is the only job I've found. And it pays well, too.
A job? So you're racketeering for someone else?
I got enlisted by the Wet Boot Boys, a gang from the docks. I'm their muscle for their dirty work.
Es un
You
criminal.
are a criminal who endorses criminal activity. The least you could do is stop hiding behind this pretense.
I don't care what you think, sir. I do what I have to do for
Este
my
es
own
matón,
reasons,
el otro
and
abusa.
that's that.
I'm not sure
Aquí hay
Mr.
que
Lewis
cargárselas a
would
todos,
agree
tío.
with your by all means necessary philosophy, sir.
Oh, do you really think he's the poor victim here? Barrett can be as...
According to you, physicians are scarce in this part of town.
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you?
This part of town does have quite a reputation. Would you say it's justified?
Totally. Look at me, for instance.
Siempre miro a mi oponente, dice.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more.
Buh. Tenemos cena, chavales. Tenemos cena con este
Goodbye,
pavo.
Mr. Peter.
Tenemos cena. Otro es un matón.
Hello, young man. I'm Dr. Reed, and I would like to ask you a few questions. May I enter, please?
Sorry, no, sir. My father does not like people entering.
Your father is worried about you, boy.
So my father actually worries about me then.
Ojo, como nos colamos, eh.
Dreams are soaked with glue.
Casa de los Peterson. Pues nos hemos colado. Así por la cara bonita, ¿no? Y le vamos a robar todo. Hostia,
So, may I...
I'm not bothered. What could be...
Vale.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
Yes, I know her. She came here to examine me when I was very sick. She said I should go out more.
Your father
Flora
and
Lewis.
Mr. Lewis used to be good friends. What happened, Harry?
I was young then. I don't remember Mr. Lewis ever coming back again after my mother died. Or was it after my father started bullying him? I don't know.
Have you tried speaking to Mr. Lewis about it?
I don't go out often, but yes. And he scolded me and told me to leave him alone. I guess my father frightened.
But you are not responsible for your father's act.
Am I not? Dad always says that he joined that gang for my sake.
Vale, vamos a ir haciendo conexión de personajes. Este es el hijo del matón. O sea, este también hay que botar el nombre.
How do you feel? Speaking of which, what can you tell me about your father?
My father is an idiot who makes idiot things. That's all I...
Forgive my bluntness, young man, but you don't...
Why should I?
Más quise venir aquí. Tienes un lugar al que llamar hogar.
This place is awful, I agree. But does that not mean your situation can only improve?
That's exactly what my father says. Harry, you should be grateful for what you've got. I wasn't even consulted when we moved here.
If life here is so terrible for you, why don't you just leave this place? Have you ever spoken to your father about it?
I don't go outside. It terrifies me so. I went outside once without my father noticing and I
Hombre,
saw
hay
terrible
vampiros, hay
things.
cosas.
Bloody.
So that's why you stay at home all day?
I'm not afraid of disease or death, Dr. Reed. It's the living I'm afraid of.
Vale, esto ya está.
Goodbye, young.
Even my dreams are soaked with glue.
Vamos a ver qué más tienen por aquí. Paso su casa y me cuela hasta en la cocina, tú.
It's
Vale, está
locked.
cerrado. Vale, ok. Ya hemos looteado, nos vamos. Pues hemos conocido bastante gente ahora, ¿eh? Y nos quedan por ahí alguna que otra. A ver, ¿te tiene que contarnos algo más ahora?
You never...
Mira, sobre la salud de Harry.
What do you know of Harry Peterson? The boy seems so
Harry's a good boy, but he spends most of his time complaining.
What troubles him exactly?
Well, despite being his father's son, almost everything, I think. He never wanted to come to Whitechapel in the first place. Hates this place more than most of us.
Joe Peterson. He's the villain here, isn't he? But you seem to know each other.
I'd known Joe for years. I saw him box
Lo
once
vi
or
boxear.
twice. He was a friend then. But these days, he's just another...
What can you tell me about Mr. Peterson? Besides his behavior toward you, obviously.
Colossus Joe was a decent boxer, good one even. But after his wife passed away, he found every excuse to stop training. Just what...
Taking out
Es
your
un cobarde,
anger
le
on
decimos.
others is nothing but cowardice.
We've all had some rough times, ain't we? But most of us don't use our fists to see us through.
And no one has ever stood up to this thug.
Nobody would be fool enough to stand against a wet boot boy.
Nadie se ha enfrentado a él. Vale,
Goodbye.
lo añadimos. Nos apuntamos eso.
Cheap price, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid.
You again?
¿Tienes que decir algo más?
Harry doesn't seem happy living in Whitechapel. Why did you make him come?
I've always put my son's interests above
You really love your son, don't you, Mr. Peterson?
He's my pride and joy. Even if he hates me for the choices I make and pushes me buttons more than he should.
No se arrepiente de
Do
nada.
you have any regrets?
Only one.
Somos como detectives, tío.
Not to have my beloved wife by my side. She died when Harry was little. My sweet Jane. She...
Since the criminal nature of your job means you could be arrested, are you not afraid of what would happen to your boy if you were?
No one will ever take my son away from me. If that ever occurred, I'd hunt the bastard down and rip off his head with my bare hands.
¿Te imaginas que lo matamos ahora?
Can I offer you my...
The name is...
Goodbye, Mr. Peter.
Vale. Este es el cura, ¿no?
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son.
Tobias Whitaker.
Father Tobias,
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed, and I just have a few questions.
a scientist. You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
Do you know
Todo le
Nurse
preguntamos.
Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital?
Por Dorothy.
I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
Fua. Solo hemos encontrado uno, creo que le cae bien, esa enfermera.
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in our country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
So you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale?
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients.
Para este tío solo existe la iglesia, ¿eh? A ver.
Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devoted. I send him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
¿Dónde lo
Where did
envía?
you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grow.
Buen sitio para
night after
mandarlo.
night.
Buen sitio para mandar a tu hijo,
You
sí,
sent
señor.
him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil.
Sí, claro, venga. A ver este.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than...
All scientists are entangled in a world
Todos
of
científicos
causes
están
and
en el mundo de causa y
consequences.
consecuencias. Solo
And
existe Dios
most of
para
them
él, ¿eh?
can't see-
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what...
Well, you are seeking answers, aren't you?
Solo que no los he hecho.
But the answers I seek are based on facts, not superstition.
La
What
zaca,
do you
¿eh?
mean when you say that I am more lost?
Ah, no, esto ya lo
All
me
right,
leí.
well, you-
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening.
As a doctor, you must be aware of the decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu,
El comienzo del
What do you
fin.
mean?
El castigo de Dios, ¿no?
I have heard enough.
Espérate, ¿no hay algo más?
Good evening.
it's
What do you mean?
all
Quite a...
well, you
Well, what do
the
you...
beast.
Really?
We must
What...
Vale, que nos va a decir... Mira, sí había algo más.
What exactly is your plan concerning the cleansing of this city?
Quiere purificarla
Recognize his own.
a través de la palabra de Dios.
Once this city has risen from the ashes,
Science and progress are our only hope against the monstrosity hidden behind this epidemic.
see, Doctor? Now you acknowledge the presence of evil within the city's walls. Now you
Error de pista. Hostia, o sea que con este hay que hablar...
Tell me to...
God will
Science?
see
A ver.
What do you...
all
Quite a...
well, you
Well,
as a
what do you mean?
the beast.
Really?
We must
What is...
cleanse.
Tell me to...
God will
Science?
see.
O sea, hemos fallado.
Don't you fear...
I've been told.
O sea, que tienes que decirle, vamos, lo que él quiere oír,
I've
escuchar.
heard
Si no, pierde la pista. Joder. Con el cura. Vale, aquí hay más gente.
Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town?
Sorry, I'm new to Whitechapel.
Dr. Reed, the famous surgeon.
El mismo, el mismo.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
Pura lógica, es una desgracia. Es criminal.
If no one stops it, this epidemic could turn into a scourge. It may kill more people than the war itself.
Yes, this is another kind of war, but just as deadly. History will judge us all for what we did and what we did not.
¿No le da miedo salir de noche?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
I must confess, some of my rational views have been shaken by recent events.
I'll remember to stay away from the district's roughest streets then.
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
¿El público está interesado?
Quite honorable of you. But is the public...
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies.
Vale, ya tenemos pista de él.
Goodbye, man.
Ya sabemos algo más. Vale, aquí hay otra señora.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed. I know what you're thinking.
Ah, esta es la que es muda.
Stranger. I know you understand what I'm saying.
Hostia, pues a ver, hablar con esta va a ser difícil, ¿eh?
Hello.
Ah, no, que quería ver el cartel.
Very well. Good.
Esta va a ser difícil, ¿eh? O sea, me marca aquí. ¿No estará bugueado esto, tío? Ah, vale. Que tengo que escucharlo con esto. Vale, tengo que escucharlo con esto. Vale, vale. Con el poder este. Mírala dónde está, la doctora.
A strange man was at the door with a pass for our medical facility. I refused him entry.
Darius, how could you know he didn't need our help?
His clothes were too finely tailored to be from Whitechapel.
Perhaps just a friend of that stray poet who is always about.
Richard Nethercott? No, not of the same cloth, this man. I suspect some machination from that journalist.
Clayton Darby. Is he still asking questions?
Yes. I saw him drifting around St. Mary's Church. I swear he is tracking me just downwind.
I must talk to that journalist or the poet. They must know about Darius. Nearby the church they just mentioned.
Girl, you got me shook from the way your body looks. Got me riding hooks, got me feeling like a rook. I don't do it by the book, but for you I'll take a look. Don't know what your mama took, sweet and spicy like a cook, yeah.